Hi everyone, I can see people are joining. I asked you kindly to download the documents from the two links that I pasted in the chat window. We will use those, the deck of needs, the deck of feelings during this session. This session is more focused on soft skill upgrade, as you people here, you are from NGOs, you are activists, you are fighting for cause, and I can empathize with that. I work with people, I support people, and I know how difficult sometimes is to remember about ourselves. So I would encourage you also to be present and to use the advantage of this session also to practice and to get some practical tools how to support yourself, or also how to support others, especially when facing some kind of violent situation, some kind of hate speech, etc. As I wrote in the chat window, I'm connecting from Warsaw, Poland. Originally, I'm from Serbia, and it matters, and I will tell you why in a little while, because I want also to share my own experience as a migrant. And yeah, and I want to encourage you just to see who is in the room. Where are you connecting from? I know there is a 30-second delay. So I'm waiting to see on the chat window, where are you connecting from? I'm also curious to hear Slovenia. Hi, Nusha. I was just wondering, is there anyone from my homeland here? It's always very, very nice, and you know, heartwarming to see people from Bulgaria. Yeah, but close. Yeah, my wedding witness is from Bulgaria. So hi, Maria. While you're typing in, I will try to share my presentation. Hopefully it will work for me. And once again, I want to say that, as I stated, I'm from Serbia. I want to share my personal experience of hate speech I was experiencing arriving to Poland in early 90s. You know, when it was really challenging time and difficult time for my people and for people in Balkans. But what I want to add is, Hanya already introduced myself. I'm working daily with people. I support individuals, I support groups, I support teams, managers, leaders. I'm also the part of NGO called Atalaya, situated here in Poland, in Warsaw, and we are taking care of foster care. So we are working with educators, we are working with supporting youth, and we are working also with children. And I also work as a cross-cultural trainer, which means that I work with migrants, I work with cross-cultural couples and their families. And lately, what I want to say is that I also work supporting LGBT community, as the situation, political situation is really turned a lot of people against LGBT, and this is really an issue here. So I'm working with resolving conflicts and what I believe, and supporting in improving their way of communication. And what I believe is that was a piece of work of Marshall Rosenberg, who was nonviolent communication methodology founder, that brought a lot of relief, both for me personally, you know, a lot of transformation and healing, but also allowed me to work with people to transform their beliefs, their prejudice, their biases, and also to perceive the world a bit in a different way. So what I've heard in our previous session here, also at Erin's session, that compassion and empathy are the main components of the social media campaigns when we struggle with violence. Compassion and empathy would be also the main, you know, the fundament of this session as well. I'm going to talk about two different ways of perceiving harsh statements. little bit, so have something handy to take notes. I will give you also a good practice example, how the hate speech was managed in one of the Warsaw high schools. And I also want to leave some time at the end for questions and comments. So as I mentioned before, we will touch on more on human perspective, not on legal issues here. But however, you will be supported with practical tools of nonviolent communication. So I know that you, being a part of NGOs, being activists, you're also facing yourself, personally, a hate. What Marella Panek stated in the first of her session, I participated. She said she was mentioning fundraising campaigns, and there was a question about facing hate speech as well. So, you know, this tool, this nonviolent communication, can be really supportive both for you personally, but also for your beneficials. And yeah, and on the individual level, we have very different experiences as people. Even in your own community, we have different education, different experiences, and these tend to cluster. So the intention of this session is, if someone says something that you don't understand, and you are able to live with empathy, it already changes the things. So we will have a bite of theory, we will have a bite of self-practice, then I will share a good practice example, and then we will wrap up the session. So when you see this slide, humans and their stories, what do you see? Can you just write, what do you see in the chat window? Like 2 or 3 comments. Hania, if you could help me.
Sure, I'm
chat.
waiting. People need to process, because this is a really nice picture.
Thank you. What do you see here?
I believe I had very similar clothes. I'm waiting for the chat. If you are going to put the comment in the chat, please be mindful. This is the chat for session, not the event. So what can you see here? I'm waiting.
Is there any possibility that I could see the chat while presenting?
It's hard for me now to be in your shoes and to say it,
Sure.
but I am your ears and eyes. So Nusha is writing down happy younger, smiling and enjoying the life.
Okay.
And Deborah is saying a younger, not ready to be photographed, but amused.
Okay.
Having a good time. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so you can try on guessing, and I will go on. This is me. Actually, this is me when I arrived to Poland with my parents. It was 1989. I was 10 at that time, 4th class of primary school. Very important age in terms of building self-identity, and you know, leaving Yugoslavia at that time with my parents. What I've heard from my peers at school was, "Oh, you are rich. You are leaving this country. You are betraying us. You are betraying your nation. We are not going to play with you anymore." So at the same time, arriving here to Poland and talking to people at the yard, at school, was hearing the same. "Oh, you are coming from a very rich country. You are rich. You don't belong here. We are not going to play with you anymore." So I feel really vulnerable now sharing with you this story. And notice, please, the paradox that I was hearing the same there and here, and having this feeling of not belonging, neither there, neither here. So at that time, what I've learned was that being privileged doesn't necessarily mean that your life goes easier. So what do you see here? Maybe you can share in the chat window.
I'm looking for you.
Thank you.
Friends, said Claudia.
Friends, yes, this is my support group. This is
Friends on a trip.
Friends on a trip, you are right. We were on trip to Prague, to the Czech Prague. Yes, this was a trip. This is 10 years later. I am on my studies. I studied political science in Warsaw, in Poland. And this is my support system here in this photo. Because at that time, in 1999, NATO, under the special operation called Allied Force, bombed Serbia for ethnical cleansings in Kosovo. So at that time, Serbia was rather a black character in the international media. And my personal experience while, especially studying political sciences, where people, have a lot of their political opinions, was really, really harsh. And living in Poland, in a country which was much Western oriented, it was really hard for me to hear different kind of statements. And what I was hearing usually, being Serbian in Poland, what is like when people were hearing how I speak, is what is this language? Is it Hungarian? So my ears, were hearing, you don't belong here. When I was stated that I'm from Serbia with, this feeling of guilt and shame, I was seeing in their eyes that they were confused and they don't know how to react. But in extreme cases, I was attacked. I was attacked verbally, and I was attacked sometimes from people that were against Serbian policy at that time. But what's interesting also is that even when I was hearing neutral question, like, oh, you have beautiful name, where are you from? My ears were hearing already a judgment. Like I was already anticipating that they would judge me that I'm from Serbia, from a country that was having really, really bad reputation during Balkan War. So, as you see, we come from such a different backgrounds that our perspectives also differs. And even hearing neutral comment, we can hear some kind of judgment underneath. And nonviolent communication helps in how to connect with people when you don't feel like belonging, when it's about how to build connections when someone has completely different beliefs about race, about gender, about social class, about sexual orientation, about how do you perceive things when you are in a lower or higher privileged position, and what do you do when you hear different kind of statements. So when this happens, you have few options to consider. First of all, it's what are your resources at the moment, at the present moment when this is happening. So this is important to acknowledge. And if it is too painful to hear and you don't want to go to it, it's really fine. But if you decide to start the conversation, it's important to know what do you want from people back? What do you want from this conversation back? Do you want to be understood? Do you want to be seen with some pain? Do you want to receive some empathy, etc.? As we come from different worlds, you might be seeing something with the lenses that others don't have. So what you might want back in this case is some reflection, how you share reality, that you want some reflection, that some part of your history would be understood. So when you are completely clear what you want back, you could do some clear requests, and you can ask clearly, what do you want to get from people? And these are those options and choices that nonviolent communication gives to us, and it requires a practice. So, like rehearsing this, both at this session or afterwards, can help you to have the access to the different strategy or different reaction when it happens next time. So here, at this picture, at this photo, you have Marshall Rosenberg, who is the founder of Nonviolent Communication. And he's here with his favorite puppets. He's handling the puppet of Jackal wearing giraffe ears. Marshall Rosenberg was an American psychologist, world-renowned peacemaker and conflict mediator, and he was an inventor of NVC. He was raised in 40s in Detroit, in United States. At that time, it was the place where ethnic and racial rights were daily life. Yeah. So these circumstances, and also him being an American with Jew roots, when he experienced racial discrimination too, made him from the youngest years explore the subject of violence. And what he discovered is that violence comes from what we learned in our history, in our school, at yard, etc. And this is not a real human nature. And in nowadays, full of suffering, full of pain all around the world, Marshall gives us a key, the way how to use a language that influences both our lives and lives of other people. So he was encouraging us not only to note or to agree or to give empathy to ourselves, but what he was encouraging us was to engage in a dialogue, but engage in a non-violent way that breaks a vicious circle of violence. And this work starts apparently with ourselves. If you know the very famous quote from Mahatma Gandhi, "Be the change that you want to see in the world." Marshall Rosenberg was also very, very inspired by Mahatma Gandhi's work. And he stated always that this work starts with ourselves. So what happens when you hear harsh things? It might be something that you've heard at school, at work, and those statements might cut like a knife, So something you might be experiencing is a mind talk while, processing something that you are hearing. Can I be myself in this arena? Do they think that they're better than me? If they don't like me, it's their loss. I will go somewhere else, etc., etc., etc. Mind talk is always there, like inner critiques or mind talk, it's always there. So what if you could hear differently? What if you could imagine that you can put some giraffe ears, which will open your heart to hear what is underneath the statements that you are hearing? And I want to touch on the metaphor of the giraffe, as the title of this session is Giraffe Ears. And Marshall Rosenberg used that metaphor because giraffe is the animal that has the biggest heart and can see the whole landscape. So sees the big picture and has this big heart to give and receive empathy. So when we become giraffes, we are keen to clarify the observation that is triggering. So instead of analyzing or judging, we can tune into the feelings. We can tune into the needs that are beneath every statement that we are facing. So what Marshall Rosenberg was encouraging us to do is never hear what somebody thinks about you, but try to hear that he is also in pain. Don't hear their analysis. Saying that, I want to introduce you to the iceberg model. And what is typical for iceberg? That 10% of their of what we see is above the water. Only 10%. And in each situation, when there is a harsh statement, when there is a difficult communication, when there is a conflict, what we hear is usually judgments, critiques, some kind of evaluation. And nonviolent communication is about how to give empathy to something that is underneath those statements. So it encourages us and it gives us the tools to dive into the water and to see this beauty of this iceberg mountain where 90% of a meaning of needs, of human needs, are under the water. So when you hear the statements like, I don't know, what an idiot you are, or this is none of your business, or you don't belong here, our inner work might be to dive into the water and to see what's beneath those words. What unmet needs of the people, of the interlocutor, are behind those behind those violent statements.
By the way, I would interrupt you because on chat, Claudia just wrote down that I learned from Rosenberg from my aunt because she wanted to use his theory to talk with her children as they were growing. And you also gathered some fans of NVC in this session, like Iga, for example.
That is taught universally, because human needs, they are universal, and you can use it working with children, with youth, with adults, cultural environment. This is why I love this work so much, because it gives the very, very universal tool. It's very simple, maybe not so easy to use, but well, that's why we are here to practice it. And I already touched on Mahatma Gandhi's work. And what Gandhi was stating is that violence appears not on the level of acts. Usually it appears already on the level of thoughts, and where all our biases, convictions and prejudices. That's why it's important, to dive into this water and to see the beauty of needs. So when we speak about the conflict situation, it's never about people. People never tend to come into clashes because it's unpleasant and it's a violence. What comes into the conflicts is the strategies of people who use them to fulfill and to meet their needs. And intention of nonviolent communication and of putting giraffe ears is to bring a genuine connection, to have this heartfelt connection and to see what is behind, and that everybody's needs matters. So this is the way of empathy in dialogue. This is the approach where empathy is a main motive, not fear, not guilt, not shame, not punishment, not critique, but something where you can meet on this very, very human level. So there is a beautiful quote from Rumi that beyond all ideas of right and wrong, there is a field and we can meet there. And in nonviolent communication, this field is a field of needs. So as I stated before, there are two documents, deck of emotions, of feelings, and deck of needs. Hopefully you were able to download them, because these are main two tools that we use when we want to understand someone while speaking, and when we want to understand our inner mind talk when we face difficult situation. So to give you an example of this is, okay, I'm hearing you don't belong here, and I can acknowledge, ouch, it hurts, I'm really sad, or I'm frustrated, I'm angry. And what kind of needs might be behind that feelings is that I want to be seen. I want to belong. Belonging is one of the main basic human needs. So these are the list of feelings. I will just, run through it. Hopefully you have them already downloaded. And please make the advantage of having them and using them. We are saying when we learn nonviolent communication, it's like learning a new language, new way of expressing yourself. So you can print them and have them wherever you go, and
on the fridge,
in the
toilet.
And in the toilet. And you can practice your skill of being interpreter. being interpreter of statements, even when they're very, very harsh and harmful.
It's a little like being a Sherlock Holmes for emotions of other people.
Yes,
right?
so,
And
Anya.
ourselves.
Yeah, so we have to rise this, curiosity in ourselves. When it's really painful situation, sometimes it's hard to do this. That's why we also have these tools to work with someone else. So if you are not able to mirror what's going on with you, you are asking for help, and maybe someone is eager and capable at the moment to hear what's beneath, what's standing behind that statements. So why are we doing this? What for? And we see empathy. This approach leads to transformation. It brings both self-relief and it helps in better understanding people and achieving peace in every conflict situation. And I'm saying this while I was learning this approach from people that are working really in tough war situation, mediating military conflicts, working in Brazilian favelas, where you have really huge violence as murders, rape, killing people, etc. So what Marshall Rosenberg was trying to teach us is that violence comes from the belief that other people cause our pain, and therefore that's why they deserve punishment. And that we are never angry because of what someone is saying or doing, but we are angry as a result of our own should thinking. This is right, this is wrong, this is how things should be proceed, or this is how it's no way of doing this, and this is inappropriate. So the first step in healing is to put focus on what's alive now, what are my feelings, and not what happened in the past. So to redirect a bit the focus from the content to a meaning, as I showed you in iceberg models. So saying that, I want to show you 4 ways of listening. And I already made a small introduction, but...
New animals.
Yes.
I'm so happy.
Yeah, there are 2 metaphors, animals, jackal and giraffe, 2 metaphors that are used in nonviolent communication. And when we hear different things like, oh, you are rich, you don't belong here, my example from the past, is that I can hear this statement in different ways. So, for example, when I have these jackal ears outward, and jackal, this is a metaphor of judgments, of guilt, of shame, whose fault is this? My reaction might be, it's none of your business. If I'm rich or poor, I prefer to be rich than to be like you, or something like that. If I would put these jackal ears inward, I could make this blame self-talk. Maybe you are right. Maybe I don't belong here. Something is wrong with me, etc., etc. But what if there are other ways? And if we put giraffe ears internally, is when I hear that, I feel really sad. I feel really bad because I want to be considered. I want to feel important. I want to feel safe and secure. So you get in touch with whatever is real for you. If you feel angry or feel upset, you get in touch with really truth inside of yourself, and you connect with that. And if you put giraffe ears outward and you hear that kind of statements, you're starting to play a guessing game, a Sherlock Holmes, as Hanya said. So you are trying to hear what is beneath the words you are hearing. You try to turn your curiosity. So you never assume what other person is saying. So for instance, it could be like this. I can hear you're upset, angry, frustrated, because you'd like to be seen and you like to be considered with your point of view and what's important with you. It might be some kind of a connection request in this sentence. So what nonviolent communication gives is ability to translate irritation, anger, shame into the curiosity and into the meaning from another person. So this is something, what we do here is something that we call giraffe dance. So even when you hear something, even if you hear, for example, no, this is not to end the conversation. This is something to start the conversation with a new, blank card, as we say. You're trying to hear what needs are behind this no. So this is dance of back and forth, where you give your truth and see where it leads next. So what I would like us to do now is to do a little practice. Don't worry, you will do it only for yourself. So have something handy to put it down, and I will guide you through the self-empathy exercise, which I've learned from Mary McKenzie, one of also renowned NVC trainers, and she was also collaborating with Marshall Rosenberg a lot. So, as I stated before, self-empathy, nonviolent communication means checking in with your own feelings and needs. This is a path of clarity. What's important here happening for me? If something was said or done, what kind of meaning this has to myself? What kind of my needs are not met or not fulfilled in this situation? So now try to remember what happened recently to you, some kind of interaction that caused a pain, emotional pain in yourself, when you were mad, angry, disappointed, furious, irritated, etc. Think of this context and pull out one sentence. For example, in my case, it would be a sentence, "You don't belong here." Okay? So take this one sentence and write it down. And if you can just give me a sign in the chat window that it's clear, that instruction is clear, and that you have your sentence. Just to make sure that we can move on. I just want us to be at the same page.
Do you want us to share with you the sentences, or
no? Just to I'm just checking in if the instruction is clear, and if you have your own sentence, put it down for yourself. You don't have to share it in the chat window.
So clear, ready, clear, ready.
Clear, ready, clear, ready. Wonderful. So now, when you have the sentence, I will ask you to repeat it to yourself for 1 minute. I measure the time just in your mind for yourself. Okay? 1 minute, I'm measuring the time. Keep on repeating it in your mind for yourself. Time is on. Okay, 1 minute is over, and I'm really curious what is going on with you now. What you notice in your body, if you can share in the chat window. How do you feel? What do you notice? After repeating this harmful message, what do you notice that is going on with you?
Relief, Levani says.
Whoa, I'm surprised by that. I would be curious to explore more. Some more comments there, Hanya?
Yes, I feel upset, my stomach shrinked.
Oh, stomach shrinked, yeah, upset.
The other one, I feel frustrated.
Frustrated, yes.
Makes me feel sad. Angry.
Angry, sad. This is usually what I hear from people when starting this exercise, that after repeating that kind of comments, people want to cry, there is some tension in the body, stomach starts to, you start to feel pain in the stomach, headache, there is some kind of, wounds that are popping up. So what I want you to do now is to put focus on what kind of need was not met in this situation. So you can take your handy deck of needs and see, look at this list and try to recognize, do this Sherlock Holmes work and try to find the need. Usually we know it from the body reaction. Oh, this is that. I want to be considered, or I want more inclusion, or I want to feel safe. You know, like your body is showing, the reaction from a body shows you that this is the need that you are really missing, that you want to have in this situation, and this need was not met. So maybe it might be safety, following the rules, some kind of integrity, appreciation, collaboration, whatever is there, whatever is alive for you, just make sure that this is really truth for yourself and pick up. For the purpose of this exercise, I'm aware that there might be more, but for the purpose of this exercise, pick one. Because we will continue with the exercise and I will just give you an instruction in a while. So when you have already this need that you've missed, what I'll ask you in a little while is to make another sentence. Okay, I'm recognizing that I want more compassion. So make your sentence choosing one of the starting points that I put on the slide. I love when I have compassion, when I am living compassion. It's important to me when compassion is present in human relations. I miss compassion. I want to invite compassion into my life. So just reframe your sentence, make it your own, and put it down. And let me know in the chat window that you are ready to continue the exercise.
We are ready.
Okay. So now when you have your own sentence, what I will ask you to do is, again, if it helps, close your eyes and repeat it over and over in your mind. If you won't have it in front of you, written down, and read it over and over again. I will measure the time. The time is on. Okay, and the time is up. And I would like to hear back some comments in the chat. How do you feel now? When you discovered your need, when you get connected to the need, when you transferred your focus.
I can share with you already with audio that I feel hungry.
Hungry. Wow.
I mean, hungry for, for the change, for action.
Hungry for the action. Oh, wow. Do you know what kind of action would you like to have?
No, like this connected to what I miss, right?
Yeah.
And Fernanda is sharing that she feels less upset and more clear as to how I could have asked for what I needed instead of getting upset.
Oh, wow. I have goose skin while listening to that. You can see, you can observe the transformation within yourself, that it is the change of energy. That when you pull your attention from the pain and you get connected to the need, sometimes we are ready already to act, as you stated. Sometimes you get the clarity. What do you want? What do you miss? Sometimes you have the clarity for the next steps. So I'm really happy, and I encourage you to use this exercise whenever is needed, whenever you face the situation of pain, because it's really helpful to lower this energy of pain and to put you in the energy of acting, of taking care of yourself better, of choosing another strategy for fulfilling those needs that really matters to you. So what I would like us to do now is to practice a little bit other way around. When we have the same statement, how is it to hear the need that is behind that statement for another person? So to empathize a bit with another. And I know that in previous session breakout rooms, they didn't pass the exam so well, but I would really, really love to encourage you to take 10 minutes time and meet with 2, 3, 4 people in the breakout rooms to see what is behind the statement. Because sometimes it's really, you know, we are saying that we are experiencing sometimes guilt and shame and difficulties in the presence of someone, but we can also melt it with empathy in the presence of witness. And sometimes when it's even hard for us to hear the meaning behind the hard statement, it's easier for others to hear and to help us sort things out, to be those Sherlock Holmes for us. So the best way that Marshall Rosenberg was about understanding people from his perspective is to give this person understanding too. So you want to get touch into the feelings and needs of that person first and empathize. So now let's imagine that we are putting the ears of giraffe and like Superman with his superpowers to see through the walls or to see in the night. You have this superpower of a giraffe. You put your giraffe ears on your head and you're trying to hear what's the meaning behind painful words and statements that you hear. Hania, I will ask you now, maybe I will stop sharing and see what's going on here. How many people we have? 19. So maybe
I have already created 4 rooms.
Oh, that's wonderful. And I really, really encourage you to take, it's only 10 minutes time, but maybe you will discover something interesting for yourself.
So could you just, before we will split, could you just say what it's 10 minutes in the session room, in the breakout room?
So you bring your sentence, the first one, harmful sentence that we were practicing within self-empathy. You bring it in. You can say 2 or 3 sentences of the context just to make others understand more. Be mindful of time, so don't overtalk it.
Yeah.
So 2, 3 sentences, pick one within which you want to work with, and others in the room are guessing what kind of needs this person that is saying that sentence, that is hard for you to hear, what kind of needs this person is having, what kind of feelings and needs. So now we are having these guessing games for another.
Okay, and in 10 minutes, so now we will go to the sessions on your left side. There are 4 rooms in the when you scroll down, you will see Vesna's sessions, 4 groups. Choose whichever, 6 people is maximum in one group. So choose, like you are the 4th, the 5th maximum. And in 10 minutes, we will go back to this session, right? To Giraffes' ears at 4 minutes past 4. Okay, so let's leave this session and go to our rooms right now. Yes?
Yeah.
Okay.
I can still see 10 people here. I really encourage you to take chance and practice with the statement because it's interesting to discover. Sometimes people are very, very surprised by receiving the empathy for the hard statements they're hearing. Oh, you are starting to leave. 5 people left here. Okay, take your time and see you in a few minutes' time. So I can see that people are coming back slowly. What I did, I've put the question in the chat window. What have you discovered? Was it easy or difficult for you? How do you feel now? If anyone wants to share, I would be pleased to hear while waiting for the others to come back from the breakout sessions. So whoever is ready to reflect, to comment, to ask the questions, now is the time. Okay. I can see some people and Hanya are back.
Yes.
Yeah,
we were in the session of 3.
Ah, you entered the session as well.
Yes.
Okay, wonderful. Not everyone are back. Hopefully they will be, but I would like to move on. And what I did, I've put in the chat window questions. After coming back, what have you discovered? Was it easy or difficult? How do you feel now? So anyone that would like to share, I would like to hear 1 or 2 voices. Maybe you can unmute and show your face on video. If not, just write your comment in the chat window. That's also fine for me. But I'm very, very curious.
I'm leaving the stage and giving the floor to you. So just share your audio and video and I will let you in.
So anyone eager to share how it worked for you, to empathize?
Hi, Vesna.
Hi, Claudia.
So for me, it's difficult to put myself in the other person's shoes and try to identify what they were thinking, how they were feeling in that moment. What I understood is what they meant. So actually, to make this, transfer myself into another person's.
It was difficult, but did it help in a group of people? Were they eager to guess what might be of the needs of another person in this situation?
Yes, it helps because in my group, someone had a similar experience saying that, but from the other side. So it helps when you talk to people that had maybe similar experience, so you can come together with more concrete of what happened and not only your unique view of the reality. So constructing the reality, kind of.
Yeah. I can hear that. And well, my comment would be that this is something that when we face a really painful situation, we are not necessarily at the beginning ready to step into the shoes of someone. It takes time. And I would encourage to give us empathy to yourself first and to discover all of your feelings, all of your needs, and to take care of yourself first. Because if you don't do that step, then you would never be able to give empathy to someone else. And it requires time, and it requires also self-practice. But what Marshall Rosenberg and his piece of work was when he was working also sometimes with prisoners, that were sitting for many years for really violent crimes. What he was doing, he was giving empathy first to understand what is behind the strategy, violent strategy, what kind of needs are there. But this is a very, very subtle work to do, and you have to be skilled to be able to do this. But I'm happy that you tried and that you didn't resign.
Thank you, Vesna. With that tips, it's going to get easier. I leave the floor for someone.
Yes, thank you,
you,
Claudia. Thanks for sharing. Anyone else would like to share? Maybe some examples?
I can't now yet. We are back.
We are back. That's wonderful. So you can put your comments also in the chat window, and I would be happy to read them afterwards and to have a look, like how was it for you? As I can hear, Claudia shared that it was not so easy to step into the shoes of another, and that's totally fine. And thank you for your courage to share here in the group.
Yeah, it is courage. So if there is anybody brave still, just
because sometimes
come to us.
Sometimes we tend to get into those blame talk, self-blame talk. Oh, I I didn't do this exercise, so something is wrong with me. So I want to say nothing is wrong, that's fine. These are the skills that we are upgrading, and that's why we are doing the practice in this safe environment to be able to use this skill whenever we face the violent situation again.
Look what Ida wrote.
Yeah, I love the exercise. It gave me a fresh perspective. That's super good to hear. I'm really happy to read this. Okay, I want to go on because I'm mindful of the time. So what I want to do now is to share to share the good example from the one of the Warsaw high schools that I promised at the beginning. So here is the thing. And what is the background of this case? In the one of the Warsaw high schools, especially in one of the class, there was a lot of hate speech present, and the educator of those pupils decided to have the conversation with them, a group talk, which unfortunately didn't give the expected results. So probably if you work with youth, you know that, but not only with youth, it works generally with people. If we cannot process something through the dialogue or through the conversation, the art is something that might be our resource of proceeding things. So she decided to invite those pupils to the game to choose the form of expression. How do they feel? What do they think while both expressing, but both experiencing, but also being an oppressor sometimes, because each one of us sometimes steps also in this role. I suppose so, socially, psychologically. And they had this option. They were divided into 4 groups. They could use the form of expression. One of those was a podcast with people all around the school community, with the changing the voice and with no vision, just words, people sharing their experiences about the hate. They faced another thing was what you see here on the slide is a shirt, and this was the performance and also a poster that was invented by this group. There was a movie of a dance that I want to share with you in a little while. And there was a presentation. So the shirt that you see here was a symbol of a pure soul. And the green substance, which you also see on this slide, was a symbol of a hate speech. So each one of the pupils in this class was equipped with a cup of this green substance, and they could drench a shirt. Anyone could step in this role of oppressor and drench a shirt. So after a little while, this shirt was devastated. It was dirty, ugly. It was symbolizing everything what happens with us people when we are hate victims. And the symbol as an anchor was put it in the classroom to remind them of this. So another example is a movie, a dance movie, and now I would like to share this movie with you here. Just give me a second to make sure that everything works. And Hania, please let me know when I start to present if it's visible and if you can hear the sound.
I can see it.
Okay, so I'm now starting to play it. It's a few minutes of this movie.
And I can hear it.
Wonderful. Okay, so I'm very curious to ask, how do you feel after watching this video? And thank you, Hania, for asking, maybe because maybe this was not clear enough. This was one of the projects presented during this project in the school. So the whole scenario, idea, realization, it was all done by pupils from this class. And what happened afterwards is definitely that the awareness rised, that the art form of proceeding hate speech in a classroom and in this community, the art helped a lot. And for sure, those pupils, they fostered their relationships. And now it's been two years since this project has happened. And those pupils, they are still saying that this was one of the most important projects in their life, and they want to continue it. And it's taken as a good practice in the school community. So, so teachers are thinking of repeating it once again. Amazing, empowering. Yeah, for me personally, it's very touching, and you know, I'm amazed how teenagers are proceeding things, and sometimes when speaking and lecturers and even talk doesn't help, sometimes we can have the access to another kind of tools that can support people. So I keep my finger crossed, Hania, for your project, because I think that that kind of work really helps and brings a lot of relief, especially in communities, which I want to touch on in a little while. Being aware of time, I want to share my presentation again. These are just the final slides, but I just want to wrap up a little bit what I was sharing with you here. And the last slide in my presentation, is it visible? Just confirm, Hania, please. Hania, could you confirm that presentation is visible?
Yes.
Yes, okay, that's not the problem. I was just concerned. Okay, so what you see here is one of the restorative circles workshops I attended last year, conducted by Duke Duscher that you see at this photo. He's also a conflict mediator. But what I wanted to share is about restorative justice methodology that Dominic Barter from Brazil invented, and this is the method of work in a big communities, in a big group, which are facing difficult situation, violence, or conflict situation. And what I want to share is that he used to say that connection is a way, but a change is a destination. So if you remind the quote from Gandhi, that be the change that you want to see in the world, Dominic Barter is stating that change is something that we are using nonviolent communication as a tool to bring a social change and to support people to make it easier for them to access. And I'm mentioning Dominic Barter because he did something that is a small step but brings a huge change, is that he changed the language when in situation when trauma or pain is happening. What he did is that he said that there is an act that happened and that we don't want to have victims and executioners, but what we want to bring in to make it possible to speak as a community and not to punish, but to be able to have the dialogue, is that we have the author of an act and the receiver of an act. And this simple change of just in language, just in narracy, it really changes the things. So what I want to state is that what we need to make culture shift is to learn how not to punish people when they behave the way that we don't like personally, because punishment is a lost game. We want people to change behavior not because they will be punished, but because they can notice better options for meeting their needs. And my final thing that I want to share is the Marshall Rosenberg quote when he stated that when someone does something I don't like, I start with connecting to a need which this person is trying to meet during what he's doing. When I reach and understand that need, I might suggest another ways of meeting this need at lower costs of everyone. So this is my final word in a presentation that I suppose that you will get are also some good reads from Nonviolent Communication shelf. So I'm stopped sharing my presentation now, and I want to leave a few minutes for reflections, for questions, for comments. Please feel free to, step in with audio and video. I'm just hear back what is your takeaway from this session, so you can both put it in the chat window or just turn on your camera and say, because it's really, really important for me to hear back. How was it for you? What are your takeaways?
Please treat it as paying back because it's a clear sign of attention. So I'm letting in Claudia.
Yeah, Fernanda is writing. Thanks, lots to reflect on, and also patience and hard work into getting better at connecting instead of reacting. That's true, Fernanda. Yeah, thank you for this comment. I want to acknowledge and to say how grateful I am for everyone that participated in this session, that you are, taking your time to be here, to practice and to, upskill in soft skills and to share also and to inspire each other. Claudia.
Yes, I wanted to thank you for the session. I think it was really good. And also, as Fernanda said, I need also patience to reflect. And also, the materials that you provide us are really good. So I download them and I will take a look at them. And I have a friend that when she asked me, "How are you?" and I said, "Good," she always tells me that's not an emotion. Now I know what she's talking about. So I can use this list of emotions to tell her how I feel. And also what you said about that before having empathy with someone else, we need to have self-care with ourselves. I take this away to work also in my self-care. So thank you.
Thank you so much for sharing, and thank you for this comment. That's really, really true. We are not equipped. When I say we, I mean we people. Usually we are not taught at schools how to speak about our emotions, how to label them. And it really, really helps. So I'm happy that you are finding this encouraging and that this tool can support you. Yeah. Thanks. Thank you. Thank you. It was inspiring. A lot of things to reflect on. Yeah. Well, my need of inspiration is fulfilled and met when I read this comment. It would be great also to hear back, like if anyone else would like to turn on and speak and show his face.
In the meantime, I'm going to say that I'm really not thrilled. Wait, what's the word in English? Moved. So we started this session with trying to move physically. I can't because I have this cable.
Yeah.
But I feel really moved, you know, in emotional way with my stomach and heart and mind. So I'm really grateful for this. We have still 3 minutes for somebody to share.
Nusha, very good session. It will be helpful at work because we work with Roma children, which has very... Yeah, yes. Yeah, this is a real life situation. I'm moved and touched when I read this, because when I started this session, as I stated before, you are people who fight for cases, who fight for cause, and I'm really empathizing with that, and I'm also, you know, moved and touched to see and hear that people are doing that kind of job, that people are engaging, and yeah.
Yeah, quite a team we gathered here and at this camp. So it's also a very special audience, I would say.